Okay, well, I guess Seth's not here, so we're just gonna go solo today. There's like a shadow in the starlight. What? What? Oh my!
Oh man! Oh, did I die? Did I die?
Why are you dressed like Anakin?
I can see through me.
You're see through. You're blue.
I'm one
like
with the
shimmering.
Force, and the Force is with me.
I don't know. We got a podcast to record.
I don't know. I can see through me.
We got lots to talk about out in the Dune Sea today, my friends, and beyond.
I hate sand. It's Jedi's weapon, not clumsy or random like a blaster. It's an elegant weapon for a more civilized age. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Dune Sea. I am Seth.
And I'm Konnor.
My favorite comment this week is from Michael Kramer, 2647. Bravo, Seth, for guessing it right. Now, here's a theory. Will we see the Zepho in next week's finale?
My favorite comment. Neofied on TikTok said he asked, this was on our video about if Thrawn was expecting Luke because he asked about the second starship. He asked that because of the maneuver Ahsoka invented in the Clone Wars where a ship banks to the side to allow the smaller fighters to be deployed unseen. I wanted to mention that, a real brief point, because a million people commented this. I think that they're actually correct. It's called the Marg Sabel. It's Thrawn's opening move in Heir to the Empire. And yes, I think that that is why he was asking about the second starship. So to all you people on TikTok, thank you for your droves of comments, at least the ones who were nice about it. But awesome comment.
Yeah. Last thing I wanted to say is Tobster. I saw your message. Thank you. It was I appreciate the kind words. It really made my birthday. We don't need to go into to the DM, but I really appreciate the sentiment. It was a very nice message.
It was a very nice message. So thank you very much.
We have a very special episode of Ahsoka to talk about.
Yeah, we
Episode
do.
8. The Jedi, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I almost said it. I almost said it. It's not the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It's the Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord. Crazy. Hit me with your 5-minute review, Konnor.
So we just not going to talk about that opening? Like we're not going to talk that. No. Okay. So yeah, my 1 minute or
what opening? What?
Of what just happened a few minutes ago on our show here. We're not going to.
I've been here. What happened?
Yeah, no, it's fine. We're just gonna jump right into the review. Yeah. So the that title did make me chuckle a little bit, but I also thought it was a little cheesy. I can't lie.
Yeah.
But this episode, this finale, it's really got my head going. Like it's really.
Is Star Wars back?
It's churning. I mean, Star Wars, I think this show has proved it. It's been, I don't think it ever left.
I'm just kidding. But like every, we're out, boys. We're back, baby. Yeah.
But, this episode, it went exactly as I expected, but also not at all.
Mm-hmm.
We had our prediction last week was that we'd tie up a lot of Balin, but Thrawn would be the loose thread. Yes and no, and that's kind of where we were left. I thought it had great action. I thought the character work was really well done. I think some of the best in the whole season. And I think it leaves us in a place that makes me very, very excited for the future, even if it did really make me wanting more. And I wish it was a little more conclusive. I really loved where it ended. And more broadly speaking, this episode and this season and this show has proven a point about Star Wars that I think a lot of people miss, which is Star Wars is not sci-fi. Star Wars is high fantasy. And this show is high fantasy all the way.
There's wizards.
Yeah.
It's fantasy.
It's A New Hope. You have a wizard and takes his apprentice to the Dark Tower to save the princess and beat the dark wizard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fantasy set in space. It's always what it's been. It's not sci-fi. And I think that sometimes other people making Star Wars have made the mistake of assuming that Star Wars is sci-fi. But it works best as fantasy. And this show leans heavier into the fantasy. It's fantasy set in more fantasy settings with a sprinkling of sci-fi. It's really cool. It works really, really well. And it makes me, like I said, the best thing I can say about the episode, it leaves me in a place where I'm so excited about where Star Wars is going. And that's really cool. It's really cool. It makes me feel like how I felt walking out of The Force Awakens. I walked out of The Force Awakens and I was like, man, where's this going? Yeah, Force Awakens was a little more by the numbers, but I really love The Force Awakens. And, I hope we move forward a little bit more of a, let's just say a better direction, than how those went. But yeah, I'm left in a very, very excited for the future.
Okay.
How about you? What do you got?
So this episode again left me feeling like I'd watched another episode of Rebels.
Yeah, it was very Rebels.
Yes, very, very much so. But again, we got some great character work that like some of the best of the season, in my opinion, especially from two characters that we will go deeper into in this episode. But with that, like, with getting finished with it, I had a different feeling. You had a Force Awakens feeling. I honestly felt like a very Last Jedi feeling, where I'm just like, I am not sure where this is going to go. And I feel like he's almost written himself into a corner a little bit with where he's left his characters. Because maybe they won't be involved in these other things. And which is, yeah, it just has me thinking where it's like, I'm like you, where it's just like, I'm just not sure where I can't see the beats anymore. I don't see anything anymore. And that's kind of how I felt walking out of the, out of the theater of Last Jedi, that it was just kind of like,
yeah,
man, that kind of felt kind of final, that it was like, man, we kind of put Ahsoka on the shelf for a while, that like she could just be out in the unknown regions.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. So yeah, but I mean, those are my overall. I did enjoy the episode. I just was like, it was a crazy ending. How about that? And now we can get more into stuff. Let's start talking about those baddies.
Yeah, the villains.
Yes,
huh? Dude, they were. I gotta say this show, there peaks and valleys again. We talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of peaks in this show. Not really a whole lot of valleys. Not a lot of low points.
No, I think only the only real low point is looking back at all of it, that maybe it could have been a tighter show altogether. Is that like
a little shorter?
Yes, that you could have almost eliminated an episode. I feel like
could be
towards the tail end. That is the only valley that I have staring at me. Other than that, a lot of peaks. Anyway, continue.
I could see that argument. Because really, when I look back at the season, like episode 3 and episode 7 are the weakest of the two. I still really enjoyed them, but maybe they could have rolled into another episode and you could have just made those episodes longer and you could have had a 6-part, maybe.
Yeah.
But either way, what I was getting at with the peaks, though, were the character work in this show, I think is some of the best we've seen in Star Wars for a long time, which is really, really nice because, I mean, characters are at the heart of this franchise. And when we get away from the character work, that's when things really start to fall apart. And where we don't, it's hard to love these characters when we don't get to spend time with them. And it's hard to hate the characters when we don't get to spend time seeing why we should hate them. And yeah, these bad guys, man. I actually found myself kind of, in a way, rooting for Morgan a little bit.
Yeah, they definitely spun it where I kind of feel for her. Like it was just kind of, granted, no one made her do anything.
No, yeah.
That's what's
yeah.
kind of crazy,
Well-
is she was just kind of pushed in a direction.
Well, did you get the feeling that Morgan, so in The Mandalorian, I got the feeling that Morgan was long live the Empire. We got to get Thrawn back. But throughout this season, we found that no, Morgan is not really an Empire enthusiast. She just, look what's happened to her planet. Look what's happened to her people. Who did that to them? It was the Sith, it was the Jedi. And we know in Fallen Order, as far as the Night Sisters were concerned, I think that they believed that the Jedi did that to them because it was General Grievous who did the final purge. Because Merrin in Fallen Order has a moment where she talks with Cal and she said, an armored warrior came and massacred our people wielding this, holding up a lightsaber. And it was in a deleted, I think, arc from the Clone Wars, but it was General Grievous who was the one who did the final sort of execution of the planet, basically. But
He's the one also that kills Mother Talzin.
Grievous?
Yes. And Son of Dathomir.
Yeah.
Those 4 comics. Yeah.
Exactly. It was like Count Dooku and Maul.
Yes.
And it's a really great story.
Great. It should be animated, I think, or something, because it's awesome. Anyway.
And so they've really been screwed out of a lot. And so you can see that Morgan is not really working for Thrawn as the season goes on. She is, but she's working to her own end, just like the Great Mothers are working to their own end. And I think the moment that really got me was when they sacrifice her later, which we can talk about her induction in a moment, but like when they sacrifice her later and Thrawn's like, hey, sorry, you got to stay behind. And he says, long live the Empire, and walks away. And she has a moment where she just says, for Dathomir. I was like, man, that's what she's here for. She's here for her people. And I think we've gotten so used to in movies and TV shows, especially in like the age of Marvel, of the relatable villain, where it's sometimes easy to forget about it. But Star Wars, that's never been Star Wars' bag. Palpatine is the comically mustache twirling villain.
It's a lot of black and white rather than gray. And this show it's a lot of shades of gray.
Yeah, and that's cool. It's cool. It doesn't mean gray Jedi, but it's nice to see villains who have a point. And it's nice to see a Palpatine has a place. And that's why Palpatine is one of the greatest villains of all time. But you also need a Vader too. And you also need like a Morgan and a Thrawn
a Balin.
A Balin.
Yeah.
I'll get to him. Don't you worry. But yeah, man. So Morgan, super cool. And how about that induction?
It was wild. I thought that they were gonna go full, like her face would have gone white and everything just like them. Yeah, rather than just like, she gets the spooky eyes. And
supernatural. She became a demon.
Basically, where it's like, oh man, CW's here with their one effect.
Yeah, right.
And then she's got
all the Supernatural fans are going to send us hate mail.
I like seasons 1 through 5.
I know, we said it before. I know it.
I like seasons 1 through 5. Anyway, but that was pretty cool. I mean, she's gifted the Sword of Talzin as well, which again makes a quick appearance in the Clone Wars, and it basically a weapon that can fight against a lightsaber because it's got
super cool
magic. It is cool.
Super cool.
It is cool. Yes.
And I mean, Talzin, Mother Talzin, nice, just continuing to weave that stuff in, continuing to make those connections.
Yes.
I mean, if anything that this show did, that's what it did. It just.
Well, here, I'll just say it. This episode was really a big commercial for his other stuff. Because let's be honest, it was just like, you've got gods and you've got swords and you've got bad guys from other things. It's just crazy that it's just like, it's like, hey, it's gonna be a while before another season, so you should probably watch all this other stuff because it's gonna be relevant. So
well, it was refreshing too to have him have confidence in his audience to know this universe, because that's a commitment. That's a tough thing to expect from your audience. And another thing with the MCU, sometimes they back off on that a little bit. Actually, I'll give a better example. I'm a big Assassin's Creed fan, or at least I was. Those other Assassin's Creed fans, you'll know exactly what I mean. But when the movie came out, really hyped about that. But they kind of just gave a really washed down version of the lore in the movie. They were like, hey, yeah, here's the Apple of Eden and all this, and just this real like Cliff Notes version of the lore, and it was to appeal to general audiences, but it left the fans feeling like I'm not interested in this because you're taking the thing I love and you're giving me bullet points and you're watering it down. And I wish that they would have had the confidence to do what's been going on here in Ahsoka to just say, no, if you haven't played the games, then I guess this movie's not for you. Yeah. And so I love the confidence of the show to say, if you've not watched Rebels, if you've not watched Clone Wars, I guess this show's not for you. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. Go watch those shows and the show will be waiting for you. Yeah. And that's really nice. It's really refreshing because that is a risk because you're losing out on audience members who haven't watched those shows. Yeah.
And then, back to, like that choreography was awesome.
Yes.
Where it's just like, that was pretty cool. That was up there. It's not as good as Ahsoka versus Baylan the first time around.
I still think that's.
But like, that's some fun sword play that was happening there with Ahsoka's 2 lightsabers fighting against the little, like, I don't know my swords well enough. I'm going to call it like a little scimitar. I'm not really sure that she had and she's spinning it all and everything like that. That was some cool choreography.
It kind of felt like an oversized katana, really.
Maybe. I don't know. It didn't seem super long though. It felt like it was like,
thicker.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure there is somebody out there who can tell us if it's based on an actual type of sword. But
I'm sure.
Yeah, that was really cool. I started to feel there toward the end of that fight some actual stakes for Ahsoka. When she cut her lightsaber in half. Yeah. I was like, oh,
R.I.P.
And then I thought maybe for like half a second, I was like, Dave's not going to kill her, right? But the fact that it crossed my mind, I was like, bravo, because that's one thing with main characters, you just know, right? I mean, they're getting out of this, and it's just a foregone conclusion, and so it takes a really talented structure to your story and to your choreography to actually
make you think that,
instill fear into your audience. And like I said, it's like a half a second, but there for a moment after she cut the lightsaber and knocks her to the ground, and Sabine was there, I was like, is this going to be a moment for Sabine and Ahsoka's going to sacrifice herself, maybe like push all the troopers off, this big display, and then that's it?
Yeah.
But of course it didn't happen, but just like I said, half a second thought just goes to show how nice that choreography was. Really, really cool. Really cool.
So they were she was flanked by someone there. A bunch of somebodies. Yeah. Well, what'd you think about that?
You mean Pick and Waffle? Or is that their names?
You mean Tag and Bink?
No. Is that their names? I've only heard this in audio, so I might be totally wrong. The Death Troopers. That's their names, right?
Are they? Pick and Waffle?
I could have swore that's their name.
No, what are you talking about?
Thrawn's Death
They have names?
I could have swore their names are Pick and Waffle.
Pick and Waffle? Is that the sounds they make? Like that?
They are Pick and Waffle. I knew it. I've only ever heard this in audio. So I was like, is that what I'm hearing? Pick and Waffle? It
really
is. It's Pick and Waffle.
Those are his Death Troopers. And they're are they in Rebels then?
Pick served, he accompanied Assistant Director Colonel Beerly Ronan of the Empire's Project Stardust. And so there's just 2 of them and they were left over from the Chimera. So maybe they're Pick and Waffle.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I have no idea.
You don't know for a fact if this was Pick and Waffle.
No. Yeah. I have no idea who these characters are or why their names are Pick and Waffle. I've just heard people say their names.
Gotcha. But they were Death Troopers.
They were Death Troopers.
And there happened to be 2 Death Troopers in this episode. Okay.
I heard a few people mention it, and then I was talking to Matt from the Star Wars Time show earlier today, and on his video he talked about Pick and Waffle. And I was like, I've heard this several times now. Who are these people?
Wild. You learn something new every day. I didn't know that.
You sure do.
Yes. So, but what were Pick and Waffle? What was special about them?
They were ghouls. They were zombies.
Undead sacrifices for Thrawn.
Crazy.
It was
crazy.
I mean, we kind of we talked about that, which is cool. You know what I mean? That's been a rumor going around, the undead stormtroopers. And what a sight.
Yeah. I think they've always been undead. Like,
you think so?
Yeah. Like when they killed them, I think that was not the first time.
You think so? But they didn't explode like Marok though.
Well, they didn't when they died, when they would cut them down.
Exactly. That's what I'm even more confused about Marok.
So my guess, because why else would they need the red wraps and stuff?
Yeah.
My guess is that they all
Kinda
died.
holding them together.
Yes. My guess is that they all died when the ship arrived. Thrawn awoke the Great Mothers, which...
Yeah, I know. Weird.
And then they got reanimated, but basically every time they die, you notice they get slower.
Yes.
So they like lose something.
Mhm.
So that's my guess, is that they've always been dead, but they're, slowly.
Wow.
That's my thought.
Hey, zombies in the Star Wars world.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
So Thrawn woke the Great Mothers. That's another...
Yeah, what a throwaway line.
Yeah,
Hey,
a little
Thrawn-
passive...
Thrawn woke the Great Mothers and they rebuilt his ship.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's
is
crazy.
It is. Because
who put them to sleep? Why are what's all the caskets about?
Exactly.
Why is this whole place dead?
How does Thrawn even know how to awaken a Great Mother?
Yeah, or maybe just him arriving is what did it.
Maybe, yeah, that could be it too. But
Yeah.
Ezra was there when he arrived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love a comic or something that explains what happened as soon as they arrived.
Because what do you think, that the Purgle punted the Chimera towards the planet?
Yeah. I just want to know if Thrawn and Ezra had to work together for a little bit.
I could see that.
Because there's a big question as to why didn't Thrawn just kill him. I wonder if there's a
or
mutual...
vice versa.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a mutual respect to a certain degree. Like, us killing each other isn't getting us out of here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you are a worthy adversary, so it would be disappointing to get rid of you.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
And so it makes sense that when they arrive, he puts Sabine after Ezra to distract him. Because if you follow his thought process, then it's like, well, then why wouldn't he, as soon as he knows that they're on their way, why doesn't he kill Ezra? It's like, well, that would tip Ezra off as to something's going on. I need to investigate. He knows not to underestimate a Jedi, which, by the way, what a great line that was at the beginning of the episode. The whole opening was awesome, but that moment where he's like, yeah, I've seen many of an Imperial officer underestimate the rebellion, and myself underestimate a single Force user. Never again.
Yeah.
Love that.
Well, I guess now we're talking about him. That he was the best in this episode.
Oh yeah,
easily. He and Ezra both. That it's like they've gotten better every single episode. And
has
Thrawn,
he though?
What
has he?
Ezra?
Has Ezra gotten better?
I don't know. Don't you think that if you had to pick of all three, this is your favorite?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Well, we're talking about Blue Man.
I'm just poking. I'm just poking.
just a little joshing. That's all. Just a little joshing. Anyway, but dude, he was scary. Thrawn had a presence. It was cool.
It was very
he
cool.
felt like Thrawn. Like I don't know what it was in that episode 6 when he first shows up. I don't know.
It's because we don't see him scheme.
Maybe. I don't know. Just this was just kind of like, that how cold that line was to Ahsoka when he's leaving. It's like, perhaps, a Ronin like you, this is where you belong.
Yeah.
And just pieces out of there. That it's just like, dude, that is cold.
He had a trajectory this episode that I loved. I loved that it opened with that line about the Jedi, because where his headspace is at. He's like, I am not underestimating these guys anymore.
Yeah.
And I've always said, well, I guess I've never said it on the show, but Thrawn is bottlenecked by the incompetence of his subordinates and his peers. And Rebels, you can see that. If everybody was like Thrawn, they would win. But he is constantly undermined by the incompetence of the people underneath him. And so here, he wins because everybody understands the threat. He explains to Morgan, we are not underestimating this group. It's happened before. It's not happening this time. Which is very interesting for when they get back, because we know that there's a couple Jedi kicking around that galaxy. I'm really fascinated to see how that's going to go. Topic for later. But, and by the way, that shot when he's just standing there smiling when Morgan's getting inducted in the two ties.
Yeah, detach and fly off.
This guy, he commands a presence. And I love in the tacticalness of it. I've heard some people say, why did he only send 2 TIE fighters? Because he needs to make sure he gets out of there. So he is sparing just enough. Yeah. Just enough to do a little damage and slow him down and get himself out of there.
Only thing that I thought, which I wish they would have explained, is when he knew they were in the tower, why didn't he shoot the tower? Maybe because the Star Destroyer was still too close to the tower.
I think so.
But that was the only thing that I thought that he could have done that would have ensured a win. basically. And that was the only thing that I could like really think of that was like, yeah, I mean, it's foolproof except for that. They're like, why not just shoot the tower? Yeah. But again, I thought that he even looked better in this episode. I don't know what it was. Still not
his eyes were a little brighter.
I thought his eyes looked better. I thought his hairline looked better. I thought just he just looked more Thrawn to me, or like my mind's eye of what Thrawn should look like.
Yeah. So, I thought that you mentioned that final monologue.
Cold.
I love when he gets out there, and him and Baylan had the same line to Ahsoka. Like he says, I knew exactly how to handle you because I knew your master, and I knew what he became. And maybe you are just like him.
Yeah.
But Ahsoka's sitting there like, I can take that. I'm past that, man. Yeah. But it doesn't matter because he's out of there. Yeah. He's gone.
She can't catch him.
And I love the ending to that. Like, and the way he says, it's a shame we've never met, and now perhaps we never will. Long live the Empire. And just boom.
Yeah.
And at that moment, because I thought that they were going to slide the ship
somehow get in. Yeah.
And I was like, shoot. I mean, I knew that he was going to make it out. I just thought at that moment that they were going to tag along. I was like, wow, they went there.
Yeah.
A force to be reckoned with. This is awesome. Finally, we get somebody who's scary. Yeah. He's not, like we talked about it last week, he's not a Palpatine. He's not blinded by, the force and the darkness. He's tactical, and he understands exactly. And now that he's dealt with a Jedi and he's been beaten by one, he's not going to be beaten by one again. It's really exciting.
Yeah.
It's really exciting.
Yeah. It's again, now that I've seen it, I'm ready for more. Basically, like I want to see him interact with everybody else now.
Yeah.
And it's super cold leaving them out in space. It's just kind of like, man, I don't know where it goes.
And going to Dathomir, seeing him get to Dathomir and that Raiders of the Lost Ark shot.
Yes, very much so, with all the coffins and stuff, or caskets, whatever.
So that leaves me again. That's so we knew that they were doing that, but that's a very interesting way to end the episode, because we had a kind of a Return of the King we're hitting everybody on our way out. We see Ezra return to Hera and Chopper. That was a cute moment. But then we have Thrawn, instead of seeing him rendezvous with the Shadow Council, which would have been interesting.
Yeah.
No, we see him go to Dathomir. Why? Like, why
got to pay his debt?
Well, I get that would happen. Don't get me wrong. Like, I know that that's what happened, but why is that the beat that we need to see?
Probably, I assume the next time we'll see him, that the planet will be repopulated.
Maybe, but what does that have to do? That makes me think that their agreement was beyond just...
It may be.
Just deliver. Because to me, before this, it seemed like, hey, you help me out, I'll help you out.
Then we part ways.
Then we part ways. Exactly.
I think that that's his army. Because since the Empire's in shambles, yes, I think that that's going to be his army.
Somebody, and forgive me if you're listening, I don't remember who said it. It was either a comment or a DM, said that maybe the Night Sisters would take the place of the Nogri.
Oh, okay,
Because like he has Rook, which we've seen in Rebels.
Yes.
And I've started reading Heir to the Empire. I know the cliff notes of what happens, but I've never read the actual stories. I'm reading it now. It's excellent, by the way. I get it now. But so I don't know how the Nogri fit into the overall story, but I know they're very important. So maybe the Night Sisters take that place.
Maybe.
Because Thrawn does rely on that, like outside of the Imperial ranks, he does rely on those other species. Maybe that is it. Maybe it is the Night Sisters that he needs as like his backup, his secret weapon.
Again, the whole thing is, as you said, why does he lose? Because his subordinates fail him. Mm-hmm. Well, now he has an army of things that just listen to him, that aren't going to bring in like the human, the human connection or whatever. No, they'll just listen. They'll do as he needs. Yeah. Fodder.
Exactly. That's that's just where I'm at. Like this is my reaction. The whole episode is just, wow, where are we going? This is crazy. And not in a bad way. Yeah. I'm just left really like, wow, this is so cool. Yeah. And it leaves me kind of like how I was when I left Across the Spider-Verse as well.
Yeah.
Loved that movie, but it's really hard without Beyond the Spider-Verse to really judge it on its own, because it sets up so much that if it doesn't all pay off, then it's tough. It's tough. And maybe that's a me problem, because I do have that issue where if the ending is bad, it sours what otherwise could be a really good beginning. So I really love this show. And if whatever's next isn't so good, it could sour this experience for me a little bit. And I wish that wasn't the case. I wish that wasn't how my brain is wired, but unfortunately that's just how I process media. Mm-hmm. But I have confidence right now that the guy will do what needs to be done.
Yeah. So I'm going to switch gears if you're okay with that.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Do you, would you want to build lightsabers with Yuang?
That was a sick scene.
It's probably my favorite scene. And I'm not even that much of a Kanan Jarrus fan, and I felt like it was just Rebels like fodder. Basically, mm-hmm. It was just like, hey, you remember this? You remember this? How fun is this? And but I thought it was just a really well done scene.
First time in live action we've seen a lightsaber being built.
Yes.
Aside from the deleted scene in ROTJ.
Oh, didn't even think about that. I just think of always about Anakin's broken ones. Who was going to kill me?
No, that scene, to me, it did a lot of heavy lifting. So when I got done with the episode and I was sitting there like, what are you trying to tell me, Dave? What are you trying? Tell me your secrets.
Do I need to go out and stare at the moon for a while, then come back and watch it again?
Yeah, I got to go howl at the moon and figure it out. No, I was thinking about scenes and some of the slower scenes, because when you have a finale and you have something that needs to be really action-packed, everything is deliberate. And so thinking to like my filmmaking roots and thinking about narratively, I'm thinking about these scenes, and scenes like these always serve a double purpose. I guess it's fun to see him build a lightsaber. And so on the sort of macro level, Ezra gets a lightsaber. That's how he has his lightsaber going into the fight. But what's underneath there? Why include that scene? Because you could have easily done that in just a quicker way, where he goes in there and then grabs one of the training lightsabers. Why have that scene? And so I was trying to think about, how does this tie with the rest of the episode? How does it tie with the themes of the episode? And it really goes back to this overarching theme of masters and apprentices. This awesome theme that Dave has done, which we said it before, I think is really a meta narrative about Dave finally coming into his own as a writer and as a storyteller in Star Wars under George Lucas, which is really cool. It's like a love letter to all that. It's beautiful in that way. But with our characters here, we have all the great stuff with Anakin and Ahsoka. We have the conflict with Ahsoka needing to be a master, coming out of being just the apprentice, the wandering apprentice. She needs to be the master to Sabine. And now we have this moment with Ezra where now he gets to be tied into this theme, talking about his master. And it was really cool. It was a really cool moment. Like, he gets his master's emitter. And you get to learn about that. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's just interesting that like, he really likes samurai stuff. Like, there's just a lot of like samurai verbiage and how the weapons look and stuff like that. Like when you look at Kanan's emitter and he connects it, it's just like, looks like a katana.
Yeah.
Yeah. That it's like, that's fun.
Fun. It's very cool. Mm-hmm. And I love Huyang's line. He says after he builds the lightsaber, because he's talking about how Ezra's so bullheaded and like, there's a system. You don't have a system, Ezra. And then he says, well done. It looks like you were a good student. And that makes Sabine leave, because Sabine's not a good student, just like Ahsoka's not a good master. Mm-hmm. And I love that Ezra being used in this way narratively to inform the characters of Sabine and Ahsoka and their arcs and their problems, because they're both failing in their respective regards as apprentice and as master. And so it was really cool to see Ezra, who is a really good apprentice. He's not a master yet. And Ahsoka got to see a really good master in Anakin. She got to learn. Now Sabine gets to learn from another apprentice. And she got to see like, oh, you did learn from your master. Because what does he say the whole time? He doesn't give credit to himself. He gives credit to Kanan. Mm-hmm. He's like, he taught me very well. He taught me everything I knew. and then he builds it and with his master's emitter, and then that's what Huyang says. I love that moment, but then we get one more little nugget of info. It's really important. And we finally get the backstory as to what happened between Ahsoka and Sabine. Why did they split in the first place? And it goes back to
she saw darkness in her.
Yes.
What happened to her master? There was darkness in him.
Mm-hmm.
And so she ran away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Empire glassed Mandalore,
Exactly.
which this was a lot more subtle way to tie it to the Mandalorian, by the way.
Yeah.
I appreciated this more than the last episode. We were like, what about Mandalore? You know?
What about what happened on Mandalore? Yeah.
So it was a lot more subtle. And again, if you've watched Rebels, you've been rewarded by this, or not rewarded, because it's really sad. You got to know Clan Wren, and they're gone. They're all dead.
Yeah.
And now you know two things, which is really important, that Ahsoka, yes, like Grogu, feared what Sabine could become. She has this paralyzing fear. And it also, for the end of the episode, they have nobody to go back to. Sabine has no family to return to. You could argue that Hera, and all them is her family, but her family is gone, and Ahsoka is moving on. And so Ezra gets to go back, but that's why they have to stay, because they need to move on and continue.
And the whole point too was to get him back.
Yes.
Never that they had to make the journey home.
Yes.
It was, they had to destroy the ring.
Because yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
They needed because Ezra does have a family.
Yeah.
He does have the family back home.
Yeah.
And I think that was that scene of Ezra building his lightsaber. It's you can look at it on the surface and just say, oh, it's really cool that he got his lightsaber. And I like that it was blue, by the way.
Nice nod.
Yeah. But it was a lot more than that.
Yeah.
There was a lot more to that, and it really informed the characters. And then right out there on the wing too, with all this master and apprentice stuff. I love that theme so much, because Ahsoka, we talked about this last episode. She wasn't all better. She's been she's been coming into her own, and she is trying to break this really generational sin. That's what she's trying to do. This generational trauma. And you could really argue that Anakin, yes, his own actions were his downfall, but he was really the ultimate victim of all of this too, in a way. Yes, he also is personally responsible for everything that he did, but everybody put him down. Everybody was pushing him into this corner.
Well, it's not like he's just getting pulled in every direction.
Yeah.
All he wanted to do was free all the slaves on Tatooine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was a victim of the Jedi in a lot of the ways. And yet he's still stuck by Ahsoka in her darkest moments, because he knew what happened with that, when the Jedi didn't stand by him. And her lesson, was to overcome all of this and to stick by her apprentice. Don't worry about she's going to turn to the dark side, because I'm sure Ahsoka could have turned to the dark side with all that.
She kind of did a couple different times. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen Dark Ahsoka a couple of times. Like, we saw her on Mortis.
Yes, but that wasn't her fault. She didn't fall.
I know. But I'm just saying that, like, we've seen that potential.
Yeah. So Anakin would have every reason to be afraid, but instead of being afraid that, oh man, she got blamed for all of this, she's going to turn. No, he stuck by her. And now Ahsoka is learning.
Yeah, stick by.
My master, for all his faults, he never left. I left him. And now I'm never going to leave you. And Sabine, I love the little line, by the way. She's like, I try. And Ahsoka's like, oh, okay, I do. That was a nice, fun way to do that. Because we learned in Rebels that Yoda gave that line to everybody. Yeah. So that was really cool. Just really, and tying it up with that ROTJ ending, with the master looking on, and just the smile. Like, hey, you did it.
You did all right, kid.
You did all right.
Yeah.
You learned to live just like I taught you.
Yeah.
And now you're here right where you should be.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And it's cool too that, like, here we are being like, they're all alone out there, but they're not.
Yeah.
They have him. So I don't know if that's going to come into play. Yeah. In any way, shape, or form in the future stuff. But it's nice to at least have that visual. And
he never left either. He never left her.
No, he didn't.
And we keep saying that this episode left us on a lot of hanging threads and a lot of cliffhangers. That was one thing that they did tie up very well, was Ahsoka's very long character arc that's taken a decade to finish. She's finally completed that character arc here. She is Ahsoka the White.
Yeah.
And
you did call it. We did see a Force ghost.
Wait.
Yeah.
I'll take my win. He didn't have the short hair and the white robes, but I like that he was in his ROTS robes. I prefer that, but I just expected them to go to the ROTJ route just to honor that part of the Star Wars legacy. But I will say, with this Master and Apprentice stuff, it contrasts really well with Baylan and Shin. Because what does Baylan do?
He abandoned her.
He abandons his apprentice.
Yeah. Just leaves her with his teachings figured out.
He wants to break this cycle of evil, and yet he's like a victim to his own arrogance and his own darkness. He's a very interesting character in this way because he has all these lofty goals and things, but he cannot see past the micro level. Like Ahsoka has now broken the chain. She has ended the cycle, but she did it on a personal level with Sabine. Baylan has these lofty goals. I'm going to break this cycle of good and evil and all of this by finding this mysterious power. When really, if he just would have taken the time and maybe with Shin, which I'm sure he did in the beginning, there's evidence that he cared for her a lot.
I think he still does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's now lost sight of all of that. And you can see it contrasted well with Ahsoka now that she's learned. Like he's been blinded by this great power.
Blinded by his own ambition.
And he fails to see the small. And now we have Ahsoka, and she's breaking this generational cycle on a very micro and a very small level. And it's more effective because what then can happen after that? It can grow. Sabine then can be the same way to her apprentice, and it'll spread to this new Jedi Order.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, here's my prediction. I don't think they're coming back.
You don't think there'll be like an Infinity War moment? They show back up and help save the day? Or do you think they stay over there?
I don't know, because
that'd be wild.
The way that this ends on the emotional beat, the emotional beat that ends this episode and this show is we're right where we need to be.
Yeah.
And why take that away? This would very much be like The Mandalorian season 2. We're giving Grogu to the Jedi. It's this very emotionally impactful moment. We're going to be separate. These two are going to be separated for a while. This is going to be really hard for our characters and for us, the audience, to see. Then what do they do right and not even his own show?
Yeah.
They get reunited, and it really takes away from that moment.
So Skeleton Crew, Jude Law better not be showing up and saving them.
I could see them like hanging out for a minute. Yeah. But yeah, I think that if they're where they need to be, because they've definitely set up enough threads there with Baylan and Shin being there, they can tell their own part of the story. If I really want to theorize here what could happen, maybe we get our heir to the Empire story. And I think they've set up an opportunity to actually tell it with the big three. We've said forever that Ahsoka would take the role of Luke. I'm kind of thinking now maybe Dave goes all in and it's just going to be Luke as the main character.
Be wild.
And just give the fans what we've always wanted, which is this story. Maybe that is what he does finally. I don't know. It could be.
It's part of the whole that I'm confused. I don't really know where it all goes, because again, how does who's there to fight Luke, or who's there to fight Thrawn? Are you really going to have Luke fight Thrawn? That's wild. If that's what you're going to do. That's what I'm saying is I think that's the movie everybody always wanted, was the big three continuing their adventure. We've already laid the groundwork with Leia. We've laid the groundwork with Luke in the other shows. I could see, I mean, he's shown that he's going to use these characters. Yeah.
If they fit the story.
Yeah.
And I could see him doing that. We've said forever, this is the same argument that was made for Mandalorian season 2. They're not going to use Luke. There's just no way. There's just no way it's going to happen. Even when he was walking down the hallway, there's no way that's him. They're just not going to do it.
Well, the whole thing with that was that it's like, that's the end of the story. Yeah. If Luke shows up, and it was the end of the story, and then it wasn't. Yeah. So that's why,
but
like, that's one of those things.
I meant more from like there's no way you're pulling out that gun. There's just no way. Yeah. And then they did. And so now we're left in like a similar situation where it's like, I kind of feel like we're there again. And you gotta, it's like they once again, you backed yourself into a Luke-shaped corner.
Yeah.
And with Ahsoka not being there. And so I really only see two options. You either do the same story again where you are going to rescue Ahsoka and Sabine and bringing them back and tell the same story, or the paths have now diverged and that's where they stay, and she sets up a whole new thing, and you have stuff with Baylan that can happen, and maybe you get a little bit of a crossover. We're going to talk about the Baylan stuff more deeply in a moment, but maybe with whatever he unlocks, maybe she needs to call Luke over to help out.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. So maybe you do get some cross-pollination there. But if anything, I could see Sabine coming back, but I kind of think Ahsoka's there to stay.
Crazy. But,
and we also called this Huyang being over there too.
Yes, because what is he?
He's everything. Archive.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's thousands and thousands of holocrons. Yeah, he's everything they need. They even just showed in this episode he can build lightsabers. He has a whole kit there, so like they can build lightsabers there. It's wild.
I think she's there to stay. And
yeah, whatever. It makes it but maybe that's where Dave wants her, because he likes to keep her in his pocket, if that makes sense. He keeps her she's there, she's involved in everything, but at the same time, she's not. So she was involved with bringing Thrawn there, but now she's not there. So she now there's no consequences. Yeah.
I'll admit that does.
It's frustrating. And you know what? If he would have just kept her dead in Rebels, we wouldn't have well,
then we wouldn't get this show.
I know, but that's part of the reason why the character kind of frustrates me.
Because
it feels like it's more of the same.
I did have a moment where all these thoughts crossed my mind last night. And then I was like, this sets up the exact same situation with the sequel trilogy as it did the OT. We're like, where is she during the OT? Okay, we've answered that question. Basically, she was out Ronaning for a while.
Yeah.
Now what was she doing in the sequel trilogy? The same thing, but in another galaxy.
Yeah, she's lost to...
maybe she's doing something else, but he's hinted that she's not dead by when she speaks to Rey.
Yeah.
So... I don't know, but
she's gotta be getting up there in age by then too.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But we don't. Yeah, to say we don't know how they age, but I truly think I think she's there to stay. If I had to really guess, maybe Sabine comes back, but I think she's there to stay. I think maybe the only way you get around that is Skeleton Crew is not about bringing them back, but maybe they establish some sort of reliable transportation between the two galaxies.
Yeah,
and maybe they use that. I don't know, but that kind of we got to talk about.
There's so much to talk about.
There's so much.
Yeah.
But this Baylan thing.
Yes.
We didn't get much of it in this episode, but what we did get.
The beacons are lit, sir.
The beacons are lit.
The beacons are lit.
This was wild.
You can, I'll just let you handle it.
So
because here's the thing. This is all I want to say is we brought this up. We've been kind of talking about this off and on. We even talked about it in the first episode that there's 3 figures on that wall.
Yeah. And
that that you even hear the brother talking.
Yeah. Faint voices.
Exactly.
It was there from the beginning.
Exactly.
But I've heard everybody say this, that there's just no way.
Yeah.
No way they're doing Mortis. But my big reason was it wasn't in the watch list.
Exactly. Which that's a good point.
But I take very practical approaches to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I look behind the scenes. I look at what is we're just talking about Luke, right? And if we existed in a vacuum, then Luke is a natural answer to some of this, telling the story.
Yeah.
But you have to look at recasting. Are you going to deep fake? And so that's how I look at this kind of stuff and how decisions might be made. And so with the Mortis stuff, the big thing for me was that arc was not on the recommended watch list for this show.
Well, guess what? Now it is. I'm sure it is.
Well, but now this is great, or not that it's great. It was well done because you didn't need to watch it. That just intrigues you.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a big part of the story. Yeah. It's just like, what's that? And now you're going to look it up.
And now you're going to be like, go look for Clone Wars and make you watch that.
Yeah. And so now not being on the watch list didn't spoil that part. So really, because
we argued about that.
I know.
Yeah.
it was a nice bait and switch. Yeah. I did not expect that.
Mm-hmm.
So before we go too deep into Baylan, the moment with Morai with Ahsoka. So I think Ahsoka, the white now, is fully realized.
For everybody at home, the Morai is the bird she sees.
Yeah, the owl.
Yeah,
She's
the owl. Yeah.
And we see her. So brief history here. This bird followed the daughter. So when you have the Mortis Gods, you have the father, the son, and the daughter. The daughter
All
and
parts
the brother
of the Force.
They're sometimes called the brother and the sister.
The light and the dark.
They're called the ones. That's what they sort of govern the Force in a way. And that's the statues that we see at the end. Well, anyway, the Morai, the bird, basically the daughter sacrifices herself to save Ahsoka in the Mortis arc in the Clone Wars. And after that point, that bird follows her everywhere. You see it all the time. You see it in The Mandalorian. You see it at the end of Clone Wars. All throughout Clone Wars. You see it in Rebels. Morai is in the world between worlds.
Hanging out with her.
Hanging out with Ezra for a moment above the gate where Ezra saves Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And now you see...
I think the most important one is Darth Vader even sees it.
Yes.
Yes.
When he picks up Ahsoka's lightsaber.
He picks up Ahsoka's lightsaber at the very last scene of Clone Wars. And it's like...
It's great
stuff. Yes.
Well, there's been this, everybody has sort of assumed for a long time that Morai was the daughter, her essence. Maybe, but I think more the daughter or Morai serves the light, whatever the daughter is. And so let's just for the sake of argument here say that the daughter is the light. She is the servant of the light. Okay. And so my argument here is that I wouldn't have said this last week. I wouldn't have said this leading up to this, but I think that what really is happening here is that Ahsoka is becoming the daughter. I know.
We'll see.
I've heard, and we've heard a million people, we've even threw it out there that Anakin was the father. And I get it. It's crazy, but I think that that's where they're headed with this. And again, consider the Lord of the Rings analogy again with Ahsoka the White. She has her duel with the Balrog on the bridge in the world between worlds, the dark spirit, Anakin Skywalker. Okay. She dies just like Gandalf. And then by a godly intervention, also Anakin Skywalker, she is put back into the world because that's exactly what happens in Lord of the Rings. Gandalf dies and then is sent back by an act of God, which never happens. It happens very rarely in Lord of the Rings, by the way. So it's a very important moment. If you want to translate that to Star Wars, this would be something that would not happen very often. So why? Why does this need to happen? Why would Ahsoka be pushed back? And what does she become? She becomes Ahsoka the White. And again, to compare her to Gandalf, what is Gandalf? Gandalf is not about raw strength. That is not his power. He's not Dumbledore where he's out there, fighting Voldemort.
He's an area buff.
That is a perfect way to say it.
Yeah.
He's out there. He is, his power is rallying people. His power is bringing people together. His power is helping people. His name is Mithrandir, the wandering wizard.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the elves call him. And so what is Ahsoka now? She's a wandering Ronin, the light side of the Force, and I think that, if we're going to really think about...
Gosh darn it, Dave, you did it. That's what you're trying to say.
She really is Ahsoka the White. I mean, this is truly what she is. She is this Gandalf-like figure, and I love Gandalf. And I think that it's pretty on the nose. This is what she is. And if she really is going to transition into the spirit-like figure, I think it's all the more evident that right after we see Morai take off, we then see Shin for a moment, which is odd.
Yeah.
But then we see Baylan, and what is he standing on?
Standing on the Father.
Standing on the Father, and then looming over his shoulder is the Son, who is missing.
The sister's not there.
The sister's statue is there, but her head is missing. And I think that you can interpret this a couple ways. Is this world is full of death and decay. It's literally got a ring of bones around it. That's some pretty powerful imagery.
It's pretty metal.
Yeah. And also, the Night Sisters worshipped the son and the daughter, but not the father. Just the son and the daughter. They're bestial forms. So that's interesting that the father is here as well. I'll admit, Star Wars Time Show guys, I did not know that before until your video, so just credit where it's due. So that's an interesting element to this. But I think you could also interpret it to mean something deeper into Baylan's character. I think that he thinks he's the father. Not that he knows about the Mortis Gods, but that's what he thinks his purpose is. He's
going to bring balance to everything.
He's going to bring balance by destroying this cycle, and that's what he is. But who is he really? He's really the son.
He's probably the son. Yeah.
He's so blinded by the dark He's drinking from the font of power. Or yes, that's what it is. He's drinking from the font of power. And I think that is ultimately who these characters are. We have Ahsoka as the daughter, Baylan as the son. Maybe Anakin really is the father. Will he take a more personal role in the story? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe these are just allegories rather than literal in the story. I think it could go either way with that. I think it could literally be they're taking these positions.
Yeah.
Because that was Anakin's destiny, was to become the father. He does reject
and bring
that.
balance to the Force, which is...
In that arc, he does reject it. But,
it does.
But maybe in death, he has accepted it.
Yeah. And I was going to say that like that also, like tying it back to the trilogy, you know, the Chosen One brings balance to the Force.
Exactly.
Yes, taking the position of the father would bring balance to the Force because he keeps the son and the daughter, the light and the dark in check.
And let's not forget, like, that is Vader is the father. Like, that is the whole crux of the original trilogy. He is the father.
Yes, yes.
Like,
that Vader is
son.
Sorry, I thought you meant that, like, you know, that Vader means father. I'm
no,
like,
no,
arguable.
No.
Yeah,
no. I meant like Anakin is Vader.
Yes.
He's the father. Is the father.
Yes.
Like that is the whole story.
Yes.
Is the
saved by his children. Yes.
So I think that there is a connection there. And to be more practical with the episode and what, like, Baylan, the father is pointing. And in the distance, there's a light that's
flickering,
flashing.
The beacon.
And it's that exact same imagery, almost shot for shot, is done in the Mortis arc, where Anakin looks to that mountain and you see the flicker. It's the same thing. But what is he looking at? What is he tracking down? That is what's really fascinating to me.
I hope it's the Zepho, but we'll see. It's probably not, but we'll see.
I think... we joked about it a couple episodes ago. I looked more into it.
Don't say it.
I think it's Abeloth, guys.
Don't.
I do. I think it's Abeloth. Hey, that'll be a little tease. Hold on. Let me backtrack just a little bit. I wonder if we're following on Baylan though. If we're following this sort of heir to the Empire template, this was another way I could see them bringing Sabine and Ahsoka back. If Baylan is Joruus. Because I've started Heir to the Empire now, and I'm a few chapters in. And basically, the way he conscripts Joruus is he goes to Mount Tantus on Wayland, and he's this dark Jedi. He's a clone, actually, but he's like this unreliable narrator type character. He says he's killed the Guardian of Tantus, and he's whack. He's whack. He does not want to work with Thrawn at all. He's like, I don't care. I just want to rule my city. I don't care what you have to offer me. I don't want to rule a bunch of faceless individuals. It's not interesting to me. And Thrawn's like, well, what if I gave you an army of dark Jedi? Because what he wants from Joruus, he makes an interesting point actually that I didn't know about Heir to the Empire, that the way that the Empire was so successful was that Palpatine actually was pushing out this like...
yeah, he was like force buffing everybody.
Yeah.
And making them rally behind him and everything.
Yes, and when he died on Battle of Endor...
That's why they lost, because they lost. And that's why Thrawn was able to fill that power vacuum.
Yes.
Because everyone could rally around him. Sorry.
And so that's what he wants Joruus for. He's like, I don't want you to control everybody's mind, but I want you to basically ease communication. And so I could see Thrawn basically running into the same problem where he gets back home and he's like, crap, now I got to deal with Anakin's kids. I was just dealing with her apprentice. I don't want to deal with his kids. This sucks. I need a dark Jedi on my team. Well, I just left Baylan back in the old galaxy. I still got the AHSOKA.
Yeah.
I know how to use it.
Yeah.
I guess
but really, would you go back and get him? Risk that?
Maybe if he's desperate enough. Yeah. I mean, in Heir to the Empire, that's like the...
I assume though too that the knights, the mothers could talk through dreams and stuff like that. That he probably will be able to communicate still with Baylan. Maybe. Yeah.
I'm just saying that's an option.
Yeah.
If it happens, maybe not.
Yeah.
So before we transition into Abeloth, we got any other points on the episode? Because this is going to take our place of the EU talk for
all
today.
I want to, like, the only last thing I want to say is I think Dave kind of hit it on the nose with like how to make Star Wars going forward. Where like, what did Dave make? Dave made a samurai movie, made a samurai show, but he also injected other stuff that he enjoys into it and built on top of that. George Lucas was inspired by samurai movies. You take something that that inspired George, You use that as your template, and then you build on top of it. And I think that might be the secret formula to making Star Wars. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it kind of like, I was getting vibes with this, like how you remember the episode where they fix the N1 Starfighter and it feels like American Graffiti. That like, that it's just kind of like, man, it feels like George Lucas. Like this felt like there was some George Lucas in this.
Well, we've said this before. That's the trick is not to make Star Wars based on Star Wars. You need to base it on what George
on that stuff. And I think that like, again, I thought he did well.
Yeah, I
that
think so
like
too.
he definitely like he took that, how Mandalorian's a Western. This was a samurai movie. Yeah. But then built on top of that and put those cool things in there.
And it's got the fantasy elements to it too.
It does.
Which
Well,
I think a lot misses that.
And that's what I think that he put the stuff that he liked in it, like Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Jonah and the Whale, the medieval kind of stuff, the wolves, like all the Ragnarok, like all the things that he kind of likes, he put it in there. Yeah. Yeah. And built on top of it. Yeah.
No, yeah. I completely.
Yeah. That was my last thought. Also the horn. That's the other thought that like we heard the
alarm bell.
Yeah. The alarm bell, that in Spanish, that means horn. Fun fact, we saw it in the subtitles.
What was it actually called? What does it say?
Hopefully I don't butcher this word, but it is a klaxon horn. Klaxon. That you hear that? That's the, take evasive action.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that like, it's cool. Which horn in Spanish. I think that's fun that actually has a name.
Yeah, so, that's cool.
Yeah.
One last little straggler I do want to mention. I do want to talk just a hair bit more about Ezra, because we just talked about him briefly with his lightsaber building. This was his best episode, I will say.
Is he your favorite character now?
100%.
What a twist.
No. So I have some positives and negatives on Ezra for this episode. I think this was his best episode.
Yeah, him and Thrawn, they were on fire.
I loved the fighting. That was really cool. He had his own kind of unique style to it. I loved when he gets aboard the Star Destroyer. The first thing he does is take a stormtrooper's uniform and then impersonates him. Yeah. Classic Ezra. And then we get back. I love the reunion with Chopper. It was weird that him and Hera didn't have a moment. Like they saw each other, but
yeah, they just smile.
Not? Yeah. But I know last week we said it's nice that he's not this wise sage, but it does feel like I was saying that this was the positive, that he's like the exact same character. But now I'm like, it's kind of not a positive though. He's been out on this galaxy far, far away for 13 years. He should be a little different other than just having a beard.
I don't know if you're hanging out with people who can't speak English.
So I'm saying he should be a little nuts, right?
Yeah, he is kind of nuts. Don't you think?
I think he is exactly the way he's written in Rebels.
Okay. All right.
I mean, exactly. I mean, he's taking the stormtrooper uniform. I mean, when he pulls up to the home one, he gets out still wearing it just for the dramatics.
Yes.
It's like, it's fun. It's fun stuff. After I was sitting there really chewing on the episode, I was like,
he hasn't changed too much.
He hasn't changed. Why hasn't he changed? Yeah. Because I feel like if you've been gone that long, like you can see it in Thrawn. Yeah. Thrawn's like ready to go.
Yeah.
And he's been really thinking about it. And you can tell once Ahsoka and the gang start advancing, he starts getting a little nervous.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I want to go. This is my chance. And if you mess this up for me, I'm going to be really upset.
Yeah.
And Ezra's just kind of like, hey, we got to go stop Thrawn. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I thought that was kind of strange. Also with that fight, because we didn't talk a whole lot about that fight with the stormtroopers. I love that Ahsoka, another moment with the master and apprentice thing. She tells Sabine, like, hey, get your blasters out.
Yeah.
I love that.
She's Don't even try.
Like, hey, you're a Jedi, but be yourself.
Yeah.
Be what you need to be, because being a Jedi is not just about wielding a lightsaber. I thought that was really neat. Also, her wielding the Force. What do you think about that?
It's fine, I guess.
It didn't.
Her screaming at her to help open the door. I was like, yeah, okay. And then, like, I guess you get the moment, you get the Force theme. That's cool with her killing the Death Trooper and everything.
Actually, you saying that makes me.
What?
With the gate, because that was Ahsoka just trusting her apprentice.
That she could do it. Yeah.
And then her getting the lightsaber. I thought I'm okay with the lightsaber moment. It was the forced push.
Yeah, that was a bit much. That was like, okay, now you're really confident in yourself. But I think too that's like
It's like a life or death thing.
And then too that it's like a love friendship thing where it's like, I'm going to get you across because I have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was more dumb is those stormtroopers didn't shoot him.
Yeah, right.
They're like, yeah, but that's fine.
I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I didn't love it either.
Yeah.
It wasn't my favorite part.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, man, so much more I could say about all of this. And I guess I will say a little bit more because I got to talk about the big Lovecraftian monster in the room. So, okay. Abeloth. Look, we joked about this a couple weeks ago. I'm like, oh, haha, because
it's so
those
crazy.
of you guys who are not super, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this, you guys are like in the Star Wars internet ether, so you see the lore videos and stuff. And Abeloth is always one of those things where I'd see a video and I just roll my eyes. Because I watched like one time, I'm like, what is this? Because it's a very evocative image, this a woman with like the weird teeth and smile, and I just kind of was like, man, this is why I don't like Legends. Like that was kind of my reaction to it. I'm like,
this is the last Legend.
Yes,
that's the other thing
that I didn't know. I didn't know this until today. That was the last one. This was like the last series. Fate of the Jedi is where she appears, and I learned a lot about her today because.
We got to talking.
I didn't know that she is intrinsically tied to the Mortis Gods. I didn't know that. I've heard a lot of people call her the mother, but I didn't know that was associated because I thought this was before. Here's something crazy though. So one of the writers, his name is Troy Denning. This is the Fate of the Jedi series. This is a 9-book series, okay? Fate of the Jedi Outcast came out in, I think it was 2009 to 2011, something like that. I don't know.
It's right before the Disney merger.
It was shortly before that, yes. And at the same time that they were writing this book, where the writer's room was together, Dave Filoni was writing the Mortis arc at the same time. Now, George came up with the Mortis Gods, but it was Dave's job to actually create the lore.
Yeah.
But it was George's idea. Now, what's crazy about this is like this is real. This came from a podcast. I'll give them credit here, called the Scum and Villainy podcast from 2014. This was an interview they did back in 2014 with Troy Denning, who's one of the writers, one of 3 writers from this book, Fate of the Jedi. They collaborated with Dave Filoni for Abeloth, for the creation, because when they were all getting together to come up with Abeloth, they had these broad ideas. They didn't know what she was yet, but they had these broad ideas in these meetings. He said that they were going back and forth with Lucasfilm, and there was somebody from Lucasfilm who was like, hold on a minute. I need to go check something. And she came back from Dave and being like, okay, you're not going to believe this, but Dave is doing something very similar right now. And they went back and forth for several weeks, and Dave had some input. And I think he was the one who came up with the mother because he was writing the Mortis stuff. And he said, and Troy said that it was, nobody would have believed this because it was so coincidental that they were both writing the same thing about these Force entities at the same time. And so this was, I believe it was 2009. So I think the Mortis arc aired in 2011, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong about that. But there was a little bit of a lead time because obviously when you're writing something in animation, it's going to take a couple of years. Yeah. So it also took this 9-book series, took a few years to write too. Over time, they did inform on that too. So there was, they wrote in this series that Luke, when he was on Dagobah, Yoda told him about Anakin's interaction with the Mortis Gods. Not that this happened later, but while he was in Dagobah on Empire Strikes Back, during that period of time, Yoda gave him like, hey, guess what? You're never going to believe this, but Yoda or your dad interacted with some of these Mortis Gods. Isn't that crazy?
Which time was he on Dagobah?
In Empire.
But Luke didn't know that Vader was his dad yet when he was training with Yoda.
Oh, that's a good point. No, well, I don't think he said Vader. He just said Anakin.
Like okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That works. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So he told him this story about that, which is wild.
Yeah.
But so that adds a lot of validity. That and the Mortis Gods are here in this calling of power and stuff, because what happens in Legends is Abeloth, there was these celestials, basically, it gets really muddy. These Celestials created these like gravity engines that locked her behind a black hole, and they failed. And basically, Abeloth escapes every several thousand years after a period of great turmoil. But her time period, her like time scale is so vast that it's not like the Galactic Civil War would be what awoke her. It'd be this in Legends. It was the battle between the Jedi and the Sith is ultimately because that came to a close.
Yeah.
That's what started to get her turning. And so if we're going to take this idea of Abeloth and apply it into this story, which does make a lot of sense. You have this, I mean, she's also known as like the Queen of the Stars, of the bringer of chaos and death. Like everywhere she goes.
Ultimately, the good guys and the bad guys have to team up to fight her.
Yes, the Jedi and the Sith team up.
That's what happens in these books, where it's like
Yes.
the Jedi and the Sith. She's that thing, that big bad that is so bad that the bad guys and the good guys have to team up in order to, and they can't even beat her. All they can do is push her back into her like little gravity well home thingy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And to make another supernatural reference, she's kind of like the darkness in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can't get rid of it.
Yeah, they don't beat her.
Yeah.
And she's also not like a part of the same like family necessarily as the Mortis Gods. She's like, she comes into it.
Yeah.
And then starts drinking from the font of power and bathing in the pool of life or whatever it's called. And then she starts like being deformed and by all of this. And I mean, this planet,
she turns into a monster.
Yeah, she turns into a monster.
Yeah.
And this planet it's all black and decayed. And I mean, even the Night Sisters want to leave. Everybody wants to leave. The planet is surrounded by bones.
And he's saying that like there's some sort of crazy power that's drawing him here. Yeah.
Yeah. And what does Abeloth do? She's a great reset now you could argue that she's still cyclical, but again, the time scale is so large that Balin maybe not would think about that. And if he's being drawn by this great power, the father is pointing. What would he be pointing to? Maybe the last time she was locked up, the Mortis Gods did that. Here's another crazy thing. So the Mortis Gods die, right? And I know a lot of people think that they're still around somehow, like Morai is the daughter.
Yeah.
I don't think so. My opinion is I think that they're dead. And the reason why is because if you look into a lot of mythology, this is a very constant thing in mythology. When gods die, they're dead. And that's a unique difference between gods and people. People have souls. When they die, they go on. But gods, when they die, they don't. If you've played God of War Ragnarok, fantastic game, by the way, that is a central theme of that game. Odin is like driven mad by like, what happens when I die?
Yeah.
I don't know what happens.
Pull some Tolkien stuff too, that it's like, that's the gift that humans get.
Exactly.
They can go. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That, you know,
and it's biblical as well.
Die.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
it's biblical as well.
Angels don't have the same thing that humans do.
Yeah.
And so so my opinion is when the Mortis Gods die in Clone Wars, they are dead. They are no more. And now that's why we have these kind of other beings replacing them. And so maybe when they died in Clone Wars, Abeloth is awoke.
That's the thing that shocked her open.
She's able to start calling. Now, what's interesting to me is that, do you remember back in the big Star Wars speculation days, back in TFA and TLJ with Snoke?
Yeah.
And there were the Aftermath books, and it said that Palpatine was constantly being drawn into the unknown regions by some great power.
Yeah.
And everyone assumed it was just Snoke and that we would learn about what he is. But then Tross came along
and threw everything in.
And threw that all out, basically. And no one's ever revisited that, as far as I know. Maybe the same power that is calling Balin, whether it's Abeloth or not.
That was what was calling him out to the unknown regions.
That's
with
what was
Exegol
calling
and all that.
Palpatine.
Yeah.
Palpatine was being called to Peridia, but he died before he could actually get there.
Yeah.
With Palpatine gone, Balin's the next in line that could get the job done.
Yeah.
Because Palpatine would probably want to be out there just for the power, but also, bringing Thrawn and all this. So Abeloth had to maybe change her, who she's calling out to, manipulating the Night Sisters even, to get this done. It's a lot of whack stuff,
it's
man.
wild, but it kind of lines up. That's the scary part.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I laughed at this, the Mortis connections and all of it. I chuckled at it a couple of weeks ago. I would have said it was nothing more than a reference, but
it's in the first episode.
Yeah.
That's what's
and
crazy.
Now I'm like, I really think this is where this is going.
Yeah.
I think it's meant to, I think the Thrawn stuff is like, hey, this is gonna conclude the Mandoverse. This is where this is headed. But I think the stuff with Abeloth, I'm just going to use it broadly, whether it's her or not, this power.
That's the big story.
That's where it's going beyond the sequel trilogy. And that's kind of why I think that these stories have now separated. And I think that maybe in Ahsoka season 2 could go further into this. Maybe we can get a more personal story with Baylan and Ahsoka unlocking that power. And then maybe beyond the sequel trilogy is when we pick back up on it, because maybe Baylan dies, maybe Ahsoka dies, who knows?
It would be, I will say, it would be really interesting to have like your dark entity where Baylan thinks he's the father, and it's like, no, I'm the mother, you're my son, and she's my daughter. Ooh. And then like, pitting them against each other, and like, that sort of idea that like just a very twisted version of all of it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. It all just seems.
I'm over here. I'm hoping it's the Zepho, but we'll see. Like I'll sit on that. That'll be not one of Dave's. That'll be my hill. I know it's not one of his babies, but I again, where there's smoke, there's fire, and he helped invent this stuff. Yeah. So that's what scares me. Where I'm like, why not? Why wouldn't he just keep using it?
That's what's crazy to me about all this is like. Again, I'm coming at this. I want to make it clear. Like I was with all of you. I was like, no way. But
we joked about it.
Yeah. But now I'm like,
makes a lot of sense.
I think that's where this is headed. I really do. But now I really think the question is not, I think it's whether these stories go together, this Heir to the Empire and Abeloth story. Are they intertwined, or are we taking two different paths? Because I could see one way, just as a fun way here, if this really is the mother and the Abeloth, let's say, that we could intersect again. The only way to kill the ones was with the dagger of Mortis. So what if Ahsoka needs Luke to do a little fetch quest for her, and comes over, and then he needs to help, because that's what happens in Legends is Luke and a bunch of
because Darth Krayt helps.
Yes,
somehow. I don't understand how that works, but that's fine.
They all,
because we talked about him last week. And I'm like, how's he even alive in the timeline yet? But whatever, that's fine.
Luke in this story is like...
He's pretty old, right?
50 or 60.
Okay.
It's misleading because the cover of the book, I had to look this up because it did confuse me. He looks like he does in ROTJ.
Yeah.
But I'm like, when does this take place? And they're
getting up there, right?
He's like 60 or something.
Yeah.
So I think they just did that so you'd be like, hey, that's Luke. I want to read the book.
Yeah.
Crazy, man. I just scratched the surface in my research about this character. I know she's not a super well-loved, like those books are not super well-regarded.
No, because I remember when they started, my friends were reading them and they were like, these are trash. Luke gets kicked out and he's off doing his own thing, basically. He's off searching for stuff. And it's like trying to figure out why Darth Vader fell. I think that's what he's looking for. And that's and he's like, yeah.
I could see just Dave has been very selectively taking things from Legends. And I could see him like, okay, I want to bring this Mortis story in, but I need a really dark version here. Well, I helped create Abeloth. Why not take this version and kind of make some tweaks, and I have my own version of her. And then that's what's going to be in the story. Maybe she's not a Lovecraftian monster in this. Maybe she's like kind of like the father, but like a dark mirror.
Yeah.
And if I had to guess, that's probably where I think they're going.
Yeah.
That she's going to be locked away in this mountain of some kind, like the Lonely Mountain. Maybe we're on the Hobbit territory now. Exactly. Maybe we're going backwards.
Yeah. Or a Balrog.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Another Balrog.
Yes.
This is
sealed up.
So it's cool, man. Like I said, it's just, wow, where we're going right now is really exciting.
Uncharted territory, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. And another thing about this being in this galaxy, and I'm going to be careful with how I word this. It makes the sequels not make a difference. And I don't say that because it's like, the sequels, blah, blah. I mean that all the stuff in this other galaxy.
He's got his own sandbox now.
Yes,
he can play.
That's what I mean.
He can do whatever he wants, and it doesn't affect the canon.
Yes.
That's the whole thing.
Because the reason I say it like that is because with all this stuff happening right now in the Mandoverse, in the back of your mind, you're like, I know where this is all going. You may like the sequels, you may not like the sequels. It doesn't matter. You know where it's headed. And because you know where it's headed, it does take a little bit of wind out of the sails.
Yeah.
But the stuff in this other galaxy, who knows?
Sky's the limit.
It really is. And that's really, really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter. Like this could be where Ahsoka was the entire sequel trilogy. And that's really cool. You don't have to make excuses for her now being over there. You could argue that it is an excuse in and of itself, but beyond that, you don't have to explain why she's not helping Rey, because she's in another galaxy right now dealing with Abeloth. That's why she's not helping Rey. And it's cool. It's a cool place to be. It's a cool place to be in this other galaxy. Like you said, a new sandbox where it's familiar but different. Like we said a couple episodes ago. Really cool. So we got a ton of fan questions.
That's what we like to hear.
Moving into the fan segment, which you guys have been killing it with this, by the way. Really appreciate all the fan interactions. We love interacting with you guys. And so, yeah, I'm just gonna start reading them. So I was gonna read all of the responses. So a couple days ago, I posted a last minute theories on the finale.
Yeah.
But we got so many of just regular questions that I'm just going to read a couple of the last minute theories.
Okay.
Rick Darklighter, Sam Witwer reprises his role as the brother in live action as Baylan devotes to that bat life. I think that's funny. I do think in a way,
not too far off.
In a way, yes, because that statue was definitely modeled after Witwer.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, this is wild. I didn't see this. Ezra gets Kanan's lightsaber from Thrawn's collection.
Steals it. Yeah.
Not from Thrawn, but from Huyang.
Yeah, basically.
Sorry, Rick, you gave me like a bunch of answers here. I'm going through these a little quick. At least these ones. If our heroes get into the Chimera, hiding into the vents, or our heroes get stuck in a galaxy far, far away. Well, you nailed it on both because both happened.
Yes, it's true.
Baylan awakens a Sith demon spirit that demands his sacrifice in order to escape, and he does. It's interesting.
I feel like that's what you do since you don't have Ray Stevens anymore. Is that's how you
make him younger or something, give him youth.
It's either that or it kills him.
That sucks.
It really does suck, but I mean,
I think there's no way out though. You got to recast.
Yes.
I love this from Marshall here. You'll have a change of heart and finally love Ezra.
I think you do.
He was cooler in this episode in some ways.
Way deep down, you like him.
Yeah, one day this cold heart will be melted over him, maybe. BC Scrubs, another fan of the show, really. He's so cool. He always sends us cool messages. End on a cliffhanger. Nailed it.
The cliffhanger.
AB_score toy picks. Good guys get stranded. Baylan is up to something involving the Zepho. Good guys did get stranded. So got that one. This episode could have gone a million different ways. And, like I said, it was exactly what I expected, but also not in so many ways. So actual questions here. Rippick_Tan says, poor Shin. Pretty wild finale. Great action. Lots of questions left open. It's a long game. It's not really a question, Rippick, but I agree. Poor Shin. We didn't really talk about her much, but yeah,
she's going to be a little warlord.
Yeah, she's going to be a little warlord.
Yeah, that's fine. She'll be a foil for them. I did make a note. I didn't say it in here, but with the Shin and Hati connection, a note that I missed in that discussion a couple episodes ago is that when they are chasing the sun and the moon, they're separated. They do return together at Ragnarok to devour the sun and the moon. Interesting. But now they truly are separated, and he could be the darkness, and she could kind of be the light.
And what is he looking at? He's looking at the sun.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Gabe_Michaels, I still want to know what the cargo was. I think it's dead Night Sisters.
I think it's bodies. I think it's an army for Thrawn.
Yeah.
What about the bodies?
You just come out of nowhere with some of that stuff.
What do you think it is? They're bodies.
No, I mean the voices.
Oh, I don't know.
Because I agree with you, obviously.
Yeah. It's gravity.
Effie Marie, why wasn't Ahsoka concerned about Thrawn's escape at the end? Amazing episode. I think she was very concerned.
Yeah.
I think she was like, there's nothing we can do.
I was going to say, unfortunately, there's nothing that they can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that Ahsoka knows
the Force.
And trust the Force, and she understands her place in the galaxy. And her place in the galaxy is not to fight another war. I mean, that was that whole thing in her episode. Like and if you remember in Clone Wars, she has the same sentiment. During Order 66, she says, my whole life I've been trained. We were supposed to be keepers of the peace, but my whole life I've just been a soldier. And now finally she's moving on. And yes, she knows the other galaxy has another fight coming, but she's not going to be there to be a part of it. And that's okay. I think she's finally moving on. Andrew Greco _1, very mixed feelings, leaning into the unsatisfied side, but enjoyed quite a bit still. Also, not a question, Andrew. No,
Don't be too hard on him.
I'm just kidding. I'm just playing, guys. Come on. No, I agree. I have mixed feelings, but more on the satisfied end of that spectrum. But I definitely feel you there. Michigan Knight 98. Who are those red suited warriors on Peridia, and why are they drawn to red sabers? I think they're just sort of like they're kind of like the. I heard another thing from Star Wars Time Show. They're kind of like the Tusken Raiders. They're just like wandering warriors.
Yeah, just like I think that they're just bandits, basically.
Yeah, bandits was the word I was looking for. Yes. And he also said, "What is the beam of light Balin is seen pointing to?" Good question. Abeloth.
The question.
It is the question.
Yeah. Your beam of light theory sucks.
Your beam of light theory sucks. That's going to be the new card.
Yeah.
Bear Cave Coffee. Balin became the father or the son, and that's how they handle the character change season 2. Ha! I'm glad someone else caught that. That's awesome. Yes. Don't want to reiterate what we just said, but basically, I'm with you. I think that he thinks he's the father, but he really
ends up being the son.
Is the son, and whether that's literal or it's allegorical. Is that a word?
Sure.
We'll see going forward. I don't know. Michael Kramer. I can't wait for the movie. We all know why he's going to Dathomir. Do we all know why he's going to Dathomir? I don't know.
It was a cool shot with the Scion lining up with the planet.
It was sick. That was neat. I don't know why. I don't know why he's a Dathomir. Other than
build I know an army.
I know that.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.
I didn't think about that. Again, to make the parallels, if Dathomir's Isengard, but then that makes Thrawn Saruman. That's weird.
Whatever. They could be mixed or whatever. He's taking many roles. As of right now, he's Saruman.
That's interesting. J_Williamson 94. Lots to be answered still. This feels more like a mid-season break than a proper finale. I can get behind that.
Little Last Jedi, little Across the Spider-Verse. Like it's only parts.
It's Empire Strikes Back.
Yes,
let's be
only
real.
parts.
That's what it is.
Yes.
It is strange that that's the first episode, though. Like, if you look at that. But is it really the first episode? You could argue that everything before this in the Mandoverse was kind of episode 1. That was the New Hope.
Yeah.
Building this new world. And now we have our empire moving into the rest. It's hard to make comparison. It's not exactly 1-to-1. AB_ToyPick says, fantastic. So satisfying and leaves you wanting more. Can't wait to see where this all goes. Right there with you, brother. Dean of Cody says, didn't wrap as much as I wished, but I'm glad to not know where Star Wars is going. And that's a great one to end on because that perfectly sums up my feelings on the episode. Wished it wrapped up a little bit more, but it's so cool to be like, man,
where's this going?
It really feels like we're in that post TFA era where everybody was buzzing. You know, I mean, that was a really cool time to be a fan. It really was.
Yeah. Because every 10 minutes there was a new theory.
It was before the fandom really fractured.
Yeah.
Everybody was together, united around. And maybe the same thing will happen. I hope so.
Yeah,
I really do.
Too.
I really hope that we can all come together and just push out crazy theories.
Yeah. Have fun with it.
Hey, a little light scolding to some of you. It's okay to theorize and speculate. Keep seeing comments about that. It's like, hey, don't do that. You guys need to stop speculating. No, we're going to have fun.
I was going to say, as long as you're having fun, as long as you're not hurting anybody, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. How can speculating about Star Wars hurt anybody?
I mean, it could hurt your expectations.
That's true. But
yeah,
we're just having fun. Hope you guys are having fun too. And look, next week, because hey, what's going on, man? I mean, Ahsoka's over. So what are we actually doing next week? Next week, we're going to kind of do a post-game wrap-up for Ahsoka, kind of rank some of the episodes, have a little bit of fun, talking about, hey, now that it's over, how did this all play out? Did it really meet expectations? What were our favorite moments, top moments from the episodes, kind of the weaker moments of the episodes, and launching us into sort of the rest of the month. We're going to talk about Mortis. We're going to jump into Clone Wars a little bit. And if you guys please have feedback on what you would like to hear us talk about, We're going to keep things moving. We're going to keep growing the show. We're going to keep making things interesting.
But we want to have content that you guys want to see.
Yes.
So like, let us know what you want to see.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
I've heard a lot of you guys say you basically want us to break down all of Star Wars.
All of Star Wars.
That is the goal.
Yes.
But we can't just fire out of the gate and do it all at once.
Yeah.
So
it's true.
we're going to start, I think, by just talking about the Mortis arc here in a couple weeks. So look forward to that.
Yes.
That's going to be really fun. Just treating it kind of like a movie.
Yeah, because it's 3 episodes.
Yeah, so. 3 episodes. So if you guys want to play along with us, you got 2 weeks, watch the Mortis arc on Clone Wars. And we'll have fun, talk about that. And then after that, I think we're going to do a little bit of some fun, an overall tier list of Star Wars.
I do love lists.
I love lists too. I think they're really fun. And that will give us a nice primer into talking about other stuff going forward.
I'm excited for the future.
I'm excited for the future too. I'm excited for the future of Star Wars. And I'm excited for the future of our show.
Yes.
It's been fun.
We are Ahsoka. We're not sure where we're going exactly.
Yeah. That's a great way to say it. You know what? We are in the belly of the beast, Seth.
Exactly.
We're sitting in a Purrgil looking out into this unknown galaxy. We don't know where we're going, but it's better than staying right where we are.
It's true. And who knows what's out beyond the Dune Sea?
Who knows what's out beyond the Dune Sea? See you guys next week.